They showed up to take my water like they were repossessing a pickup truck, 3 county SUVs, 1 spotless Escalade, and a woman in designer sunglasses telling me the well keeping my cattle alive now belonged to a homeowners association. Yeah, that happened. And if you've ever had someone in yoga pants worth more than your monthly feed bill try to seize a $12,000 permitted wellhead off your land, you know that particular mix of disbelief and rage that makes your ears ring. Let me back up a sec. My name's Samuel Caldwell, third-generation rancher on 40 stubborn acres in Millbrook County, Texas. Land my granddad bought in 1924 with money he scraped together fixing tractors and sleeping in barns that weren't his. Out here, water isn't a luxury, it's breath. You can survive bad markets, broken fences, even a drought if you're tough enough. But without water, you're just watching animals die slower than you can forgive yourself. Last summer the drought hit like a hammer. Municipal restrictions kicked in, sprinklers in the subdivision kept humming like nothing changed, and my cattle stood around a shrinking pond, ribs showing through hides that used to shine. Every morning tasted metallic. Desperation has a flavor, you know what I mean? That's when I dug through my dad's old file cabinet, the one that smells like dust and engine grease, and found it. A 1924 deed guaranteeing perpetual subsurface water rights to Caldwell heirs. Not vague language. Not subject to review. Perpetual. Subsurface. Rights. I called my old high school buddy Jake Morrison, now a lawyer who reads statutes the way most guys read fantasy football stats. He came out, boots too clean for my liking, and when he saw that deed he just whistled low. "Sam," he said, tapping the paper, "this predates half the water code in this state. You file permits, drill your well, and anybody who complains can go argue with a century of law." So I did. 6 weeks of paperwork, surveys, state permits, every box checked twice. When the drilling rig rolled in, the metallic clang of steel on drought-cracked earth sounded like hope. That's when Delilah Thornberry arrived. She stepped out of her Escalade like the land owed her rent, navy blazer, sunglasses big enough to reflect my entire pasture, clipboard tucked against her ribs like a weapon. President of Pine Haven Estates, the McMansion subdivision that expanded its boundaries last year and somehow decided my ranch was now under their umbrella. "Cease and desist," she said, handing me papers without so much as a hello. "Your industrial drilling violates community harmony covenants. Shut it down in 48 hours or fines begin, $500 a day." Industrial drilling. For cattle. I wiped grease off my hands and kept my voice neighborly. "Ma'am, this is an agricultural well. Fully permitted. Pre-existing water rights." Her smile tightened. "Covenants transfer with the deed, Mr. Caldwell. Noncompliance results in liens, legal fees, and escalating penalties. We've shut down 3 other agricultural operations already." That's when my blood went cold. This wasn't about noise. Or harmony. It was a pattern. See, while most guys unwind with ESPN, I'd spent the last 3 years reading water rights law, because something about those city council meetings discussing eminent domain made my gut twist. I studied riparian doctrine, agricultural exemptions, annexation procedures, all of it. Call it paranoia. Turns out it was preparation. She thought I was just a rancher with dirt under his nails. The drilling finished anyway. By Thursday, she filed an emergency injunction claiming I was conducting illegal commercial extraction without environmental review. Judge Hartwell, who happened to own rental property in Pine Haven, scheduled a hearing for the next morning. Stacked deck. But when politicians try to beat you with process, you beat them with better process. I called Dr. Sarah Palmer, the state hydrologist who'd mapped our aquifer in 2019. I called my cousin Danny at County Records. I called the Agricultural Extension Office. By morning I had documentation thicker than Delilah's perfume. In that courtroom that smelled like burnt coffee and nerves, she stood up like she was accepting an award. "Mr. Caldwell's unauthorized drilling threatens our groundwater supply," she declared. "Exhibits A through J demonstrate clear violations." When it was my turn, I slid Dr. Palmer's analysis across the table. "Your Honor, my well taps the Cibolo Aquifer 43 feet below the Trinity Formation that supplies Pine Haven. Separate systems. Zero impact." Her mask slipped. Then I laid out county records showing Pine Haven extracted 2.3 million gallons during construction. No environmental study filed. Their pools and fountains used more water daily than my cattle did in a month. Judge Hartwell's eyebrows climbed halfway up his forehead. "Motion denied," he said. "Mr. Caldwell appears fully compliant." You'd think that would have ended it, It didn't. 2 days later, every Pine Haven household received a special assessment notice, $2,847 each to fund Delilah's legal defense. 60 families suddenly furious at me because she'd told them I was draining their water. My phone started ringing. Tom Patterson, voice shaking. Sam, we can't afford this. Betty Morse, an elderly widow, crying because they threatened to lien her house. That was the twist. Delilah wasn't just targeting me, she was bleeding her own people to fund it. Then came the health inspector. Anonymous complaints about contamination. Livestock illness. Chemical runoff. I'd been logging water quality weekly since the well went live, documented every test, every vet visit. When results came back, the inspector laughed softly on the phone. Sam, your water exceeds state standards. We're recommending it for emergency drought relief. That same week, Delilah leaked a story to the local paper about environmental concerns. The county printed a correction 2 days later. And she escalated. EPA inquiry. State Environmental Agency visit. Private environmental consultants she paid out of HOA funds. The consultant she hired, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, spent 4 hours on my property running every test imaginable. At the end, she approached me quietly. Mr. Caldwell, I document facts. Your operation exceeds compliance in every category. Delilah had just paid premium prices to build her own gallows. Then Danny called from county records. Sam, you need to see this. In the courthouse basement under fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying flies, he spread out the original 1987 incorporation map for Pine Haven Estates. My 40 acres were clearly excluded. Marked agricultural, exempt from residential covenants. The 2023 boundary expansion Delilah filed? No landowner consent. No required notices. Completely illegal. 7 agricultural properties had been annexed the same way. The Hendersons. The Murphys. Families harassed into selling. She'd been waging war under authority she never legally possessed. That's when I called the FBI. The annual HOA meeting was scheduled for Saturday. Delilah planned to present her environmental crisis slideshow. Instead, Agent Catherine Walsh walked in halfway through Delilah's speech about contamination and property values. I stood up. Point of order, I said, voice steady. Before we discuss agriculture, shouldn't we address the fact that this board has no legal authority over agricultural properties? Jake projected the 1987 incorporation map behind her podium. Gasps filled the room. Delilah snapped. Called the documents forgeries. Accused county officials of conspiracy. Admitted, in her own spiraling rage, to spending $28,000 of HOA funds targeting farms she successfully eliminated. Rural invasion, she muttered. Agent Walsh stepped forward, recorder running. Delilah Thornberry, she said calmly, you're under arrest for conspiracy to deprive civil rights under color of law, mail fraud, and violations of federal agricultural protection statutes. The click of handcuffs in that fluorescent-lit clubhouse sounded like justice clearing its throat. 6 months later, she pled guilty. Restitution north of $600,000. Federal penalties she'll be paying until retirement. The Henderson family's fraudulent sale was voided. They moved back. The Murphy place is now run by a young veteran growing produce for local restaurants. Tom Patterson became HOA president on a platform of cooperation instead of control. And my well? It feeds more than my cattle now. During water restrictions, 12 farms tapped into our drought relief cooperative. The county commissioned a study confirming sustainable agricultural capacity. Property values actually rose once realtors started calling us an authentic heritage community. Every September, we host the Millbrook Agricultural Heritage Festival on my land. Kids who've never touched a fence post learn where beef actually comes from. Scholarships funded partly by Delilah's restitution send local students to agricultural colleges. Some mornings I still stand by the wellhead while cattle drink, sun glinting off clean water, and think about how close it came to being capped. She wanted the farms gone. All of them. Forever. Instead, they're stronger. So here's what I want to ask you, because this wasn't just about water or one HOA president with a power complex. How many times do communities stay silent because someone waves paperwork and sounds confident? How often does harmony become code for control? If your HOA showed up tomorrow claiming authority it didn't legally have, would you fight or would you fold? Drop your state below, Texas, Florida, Cali, wherever you're watching from, and tell me the wildest HOA story you've lived through. I read every one. Because sometimes justice isn't loud at first, sometimes it's just a rancher reading bylaws at midnight, waiting for the day someone oversteps.